Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first group session about how to, really live your 10th house and really find that professional fulfillment. And I want to start by just kind of talking about the nature of the houses in general, and particularly the 10th house, because I'm finding as I hear what people are telling me about what they're looking for out of their 10th house or what they think their blocks are, that a lot of them are actually talking about second house things. So I just want to kind of dive into that a little bit. So the natural ruler of the 10th house is Capricorn. And there can be a different accidental ruler in your chart. For example, my 10th house um, is in Sagittarius. So Jupiter would be the accidental ruler of my 10th house, Jupiter in Sagittarius. But so the natural ruler of the 10th house is Capricorn. So this is a yin sign and it's an earth sign. So it's very practical in nature. And Capricorn is a very traditional sign and very focused on following as opposed to leading. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody who has a lot of Capricorn placements cannot be a leader. It just means that whatever the current system, whatever society is doing, then they're going to tend to, learn the rules so they can play the game, so they can win the game, is kind of the idea. So your 11th house and Uranus and Aquarius, that's where we come in and change the system. So there are a lot of people who are within the age group that might be watching this that have Uranus in Capricorn. And if you're hearing that you're a follower when it comes to these things and it's not resonating, that could be why. And there are a lot of other things in a chart that can change that as well. But basically, the essence of the 10th house is to go along with what's happening in society, to value what society values. And the basic essence of it is to figure out what the market most needs from you, what society most needs from you, and then provide that. It's an earth science. It's about providing, and it's a cardinal sign, so it does have some. So cardinal signs are all about initiation. So it is proactive in a way, but it's not like, Uranus in 11th house and Aquarius that are here just to shake everything up and and um, change the way things go. So when we're talking about success in our 10th house, what we're talking about is figuring out what society most values from what we have to offer. And hopefully, when we're really in alignment, when we're really in alignment, what we're doing is offering something that it feels really good for us to offer, that it feels right and inspired, and we can flow with it, and we appreciate what we have to offer society, and society appreciates it of us. So then we get rewarded with status, potentially with recognition, with financial gain. And the 10th house, um, naturally, not necessarily, depending on what house system you're using, and how far north or south, how far from the equator you were born, but let's just say naturally there's a trine between the 10th house and the second house. So when we do well in our second house, it tends to help us out financially. However, the 10th house is not inherently about money necessarily. It's more about just professional success or having that social status. If your neighbor's a doctor, there's kind of usually this like sort of like inherent respect there. That's a 10th house thing. That's that person's 10th house that experiences that. So when it comes to uh, us succeeding in our 10th house and really living our best 10th house life, what we're doing is figuring out like what feels most alive, like what feels most right, most inspired for me to offer that is in alignment with society and what society needs from me. And that can be a really challenging thing. Like most people do not particularly enjoy like if you could if you didn't have to worry about money at all, would you still continue to do exactly what you're doing? Most people would say no to that question. Most people would not keep their current career if they didn't have to worry about money anymore. So um, really living our best 10th house means that there is alignment between those things, that we feel great about what we do and we love offering what we're offering to society. Now, somebody asked a question about what if you don't have any planets in the second house? And I would say that it's the same for any of the houses. Not having planets there just means that it's not a natural area of focus compared to places where you do have planets. However, we still all have all of the houses, we still have all of the signs. So it's all important. And I would say that if anything, maybe we should be focusing a little bit more on the houses that are empty a lot of times, because that's where we need balance. So like if there weren't any planets in anyone's chart and we all, just had a completely empty chart, we'd all be extremely balanced individuals. There would be very natural balance in between every area of life, but that's not the case. So in a way, it's like our placements show us how we're like inherently unbalanced, and sometimes focusing on an area where we don't have a lot of um, where we don't have a lot of focus naturally, it can help balance out those other areas and support those other areas. So I'm going to pause for just 1 second. All right. So the nature of the houses is that they will all support each other. And that happens in a number of different ways. Like if there's a natural, and this is with signs too, not just houses. If there's a natural square between them, then they're going to frustrate and challenge each other, and that stimulates growth. If there's a natural trine that offers harmonious support, actively supporting each other, and like if there's an opposition, they balance each other. And there's other possibilities too, but what I'm getting at here is that the two main ones that we can use to focus on growing a house, other than focusing that house, is focusing on trines and focusing on the sign before it, or house before it. So like if you think about the way the zodiac progresses and the way houses progress, like first house, you just show up and do your thing. Second house, starting to understand what you like, what your values are, and getting a sense of self-worth. And then the second house is about how that is about all of those things, plus how that physically manifests in the world. And then third house, we're learning about learning, we're picking up information, and it just goes around. But each house supports the house after it in a way that like you kind of have to have like a healthy relationship with that house in order to have a good foundation for the next one. And that also applies to trines. So I think that what's happening with the poll, because I said, what does everyone want to focus on? And majority of people, or the top answer was 10th house. I think people were thinking, like, I want to like how I spend my time. I want to like what I do. I want to have a sense of fulfillment from that. But like, I also like need some money, and I know that I need to work in order to have money. So like, this is the area that I want to get right so that the other areas are okay. So I think people were saying 10th house, and what they really meant was second house, sixth house, and 10th house. They want to enjoy their work in the sixth house, and they want the financial rewards of that in the 10th house. But the most common answer that I got in the responses about, what's your block with, what's your professional block? Like, what do you want to improve about your 10th house? The most common answer was like, I just don't even know what I want to do. I don't know what to do. And the answer for that is based on having a second house that's healthy, because our second house is what we find pleasurable, and what we find valuable, and it's also our sense of self-worth, and valuing ourselves. So in order to offer society the most valuable thing that you can offer society, you need to know that that value is there first, right? So second house is pretty important for all of that. So I am going to stop going on about houses now and get more involved with what we came here to do. But I just wanted to throw all that out there because I think it's important to um, also take a look at the second house for a lot of the people that are here. And I'm going to do a separate one about the second house, I think, or a separate something, maybe something like this, maybe not. But in any case, I think that a lot of people in general, and a lot of people here, would get some value out of getting a healthier relationship with their second house. So anyways, what I'm going to do now is dive into talking about some of these tools that, one in particular, that I like to use for doing step 3 of the process. So the process is something that I'm hoping that everybody took a glance at. And I see a question. I'm going to come back to that later. I'm going to just keep rolling with the explanation for now. But okay, so step 3 of the process. Okay, so step 1 of the process is where we like envision ourselves like in our, like, whatever it is we think that we want. We envision that, we feel what it feels like to be there, and we're basically attuning ourselves to that energetic frequency. And once we've tuned into that, we just focus on it more and more. And then the second step is primarily about like grounding that into your daily life so that it becomes a very natural thing to do throughout the day. Is just open yourself up and let more of that energy that you're tuning into flow in. And then the third step is the one that this is about. And that step is where, when you've been doing that, suddenly you're like, I don't feel so good about this. Like, something's bothering me. Like, I feel frustrated. I feel discouraged. I feel kind of fearful. I don't know if I can do this. It's where our doubts and concerns come up. And when that happens, it's pretty important to have tools to address that, because if you don't, then what ends up happening is you either try to power through it, and when those things don't get addressed, they don't go away. They are still there in your unconscious, and they can sabotage you, because if you're not aware of them or you're not paying attention to them, it comes out in ways that you're blind to, essentially. And another thing that can happen is you have success, but it's short-lived. It's not sustainable. And then another thing that happens is it just gets too overwhelming, and then you kind of just like give up on it and feel worse than when you started, usually. So So it's pretty important to have these tools. And these tools were actually developed as a form of trauma therapy, and they've been used successfully for, I think, like 40 years. It might be 30 years. Um, it's a pretty, well, it's a very well established form of therapy. I am not a therapist. I am not certified in using this particular tool, but I've used it very successfully with myself and other people for a variety of things. So it's called IFS. It stands for Internal Family Systems, and I just love it so much. I can't say enough good about it. I don't want to oversell it because then part of you will be like, I don't want to believe in this because what if I get disappointed? And I don't want to do that to any of you. But so basically, the idea is that um, if you, I did say I'm not a therapist, right? That's important. Okay. So if we're talking and something starts to come up and it seems like something that maybe like would be like, out of my area of specialty and maybe you should talk to a therapist about it, I will say so. But I'm not anticipating that for 10th house stuff too much here. But anyways, so so basically the idea is that have you ever heard of dissociative identity disorder? It used to be called multiple personalities. So essentially, the idea is that just like other types of psychiatric conditions, that's just a really extreme version of something that we actually all have going on inside of us, and most of us aren't aware of it. And the idea is that different parts of us have different roles they play, different um, like personalities. You can say like I've got this side of my personality, this side of my personality. I think in astrology, it's very natural for us to look at it this way because we're like, well, this is my Mars, and that part of me wants this. This is my Venus, that part of me wants this. But having I call it my inner family, which is not IFS terminology, but that's what I like to call it, my lovely inner family. um, I find that my inner family, like there are not enough planets to like. I mean, I think I've met like 30 or 40 different parts of me already. So, but probably more than that. That's like just the ones that I've like written down. But anyways, so it's not just planets. Like there's more complexity and nuance in our inner worlds than just the things that we see in a chart. But like I definitely see correlation between placements and what comes up when doing this type of inner work. So so basically the idea is that when you're finding that you're experiencing something, you say, to yourself, or if you're doing it with another person, part of me uh, is feeling very skeptical about this right now, or whatever it is, part of me this, part of me that. And the idea in IFS is that we've got all these parts, but then we also have our core self, like our true self. And the the self, and they use a capital S with it. The self is always there, but we don't always have conscious access to self, because what happens is the different parts get very focused on what they think they need to do to protect us. And that's what all the parts are doing at like underneath everything else, all of them. They're just trying to protect us. They're just trying very hard. And I appreciate all of them and love all of them. And they have ideas about what that means and what they need to do in order to protect us. They have these roles that they believe that they need to play in order to do so. And when we talk to them, we can find out, what they're trying to do. Like, how are you trying to protect me? Why? When did you get the idea that you needed to do this? And, a lot of times it's stuff from when we were a little kid. Like, okay, well, in that situation, it's understandable that you came to that conclusion, but, we we're not in that situation anymore, and you don't need to do that anymore, and you don't need to take care of this anymore. I can take care of it now. What would you rather do instead? So I find that with my own inner family, a lot of times when I say, you don't have to do that anymore, like, is there something else you'd rather do? They'll be like, yeah, you know what? I kind of want to paint. Can I paint? And then I say, sure. And then I go buy some paint, and all of a sudden I'm an artist, and I'm like, I had no idea. So it's a really beautiful thing. This they call it unburdening. You know, these parts when they can release their burdens. Um, and how this relates to the 10th house, I actually wrote down some of my own like what I recall from some of my own parts that were impacting my ability to focus on my profession in the way that I wanted to, or in a way that I felt, was fulfilling. So, okay, there was a part of me that was afraid of failure because of a fear that it's not really possible to thrive without working for the system, um, and building somebody else's wealth. And this part was terrified of needing to go back to jobs that I hate. So I have had some jobs that I hate. So I found that there's a part of me, I found that I was trying too hard. And I thought, why am I doing that? There's a part that feels the need to really try right now. Why is that? What's going on? And then I had the conversation with this part. There's a fear of failure. So then we addressed that, and now now it's more fun. Now it's more flowy. Um, and my life can be in greater balance if I'm not trying too hard, because I can flow with if I need to do something else, need some me time, need some recreation, need some family time, I can focus on those things without that fear driving me to focus so much on business. So there's a part of me that was afraid of success. So part of me is afraid of failure, part of me afraid of success, because I've heard so much resentment towards successful people. And this part was worried that if I'm really thriving, that no one will like me anymore. And this is a type of concern that I think a lot of people have, what if I really shine? What if I really thrive? Then what? Some people might not like that. They might they might feel threatened by that, or they might feel jealous, and that could create problems for me. So I think that's a pretty typical one. There was another part of me that was afraid of being trapped by success. So there was another part that was afraid of success. This part needs freedom to explore new inspiration as it arises, and was worried that if I build a successful business, I'll have to keep doing the same thing forever, even if I don't enjoy it anymore. So I had to talk to this part and just promise this part, look, there is no reason that I have to do anything that doesn't feel right. And if there's, inspiration and life is moving in another direction, I'm not trapped. I don't have to keep doing anything. I like working, kind of doing like projects and like contract work and that sort of thing, or like appointments anyways. So I'm not tied to any kind of routine, and I don't have to do anything. So that was another example. There's a part of me that worried that if I really love my work, I'll work too much and burn myself out. And then there was another part that had a similar concern about whether I would continue to take enough me time. Um, and then there was another part that was worried that if I have a major positive impact on people's lives, they'll get attached to me, and then I'll feel bad for not reciprocating their attachment. And in that part, just the idea of having people be really attached to me, and when it's not when I don't feel the same way about them, um, I just thought it sounded absolutely exhausting to have to worry about people's other people's feelings, when it comes to managing attachments. Um, so those are just some. I've had others as well. So I'm, just kind of giving you an idea of. Oh, I got blurry. I'm over here. Camera. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, camera. um, so basically I would like to hear from people's parts, and I have a list of people who said that they would be willing to talk here today. But before I get to that, what I would like to do is just let you know the IFS is actually um, a little bit involved. It takes a little bit to learn. And if anybody's interested, there are some great books out there, and there's actually a 4-part training series on YouTube that very effectively taught me how to use it for myself. And shoot me an email or a Facebook message if you want that link. I can get that to you. But one of the main things that we want to do is notice if there are other parts that don't want us to talk to a certain part, and also respect the privacy of our parts. So before I share anything with another person that like my part has told me about something, I ask that part if it's okay for me to share it, and I respect my own privacy enough to make sure that I'm not you know giving out information that parts have told to me in confidence, essentially. And so that's one of the things. Another thing is there are some parts that we call them exiles, and they're parts that carry either a behavior or feeling that the other parts in the system, that's what IFS calls it, the system, um, have deemed dangerous for some reason, and try to repress that. And it's really important not to go there unless the other parts are on board with it, because what can end up happening is um, the other parts that are working very hard to keep whatever that is under the surface and keep that from coming out will start working even harder to do their job if they're not okay with going there. So there can be other problematic behaviors or unintended consequences if you go to those vulnerable parts without the other parts in the system really being okay with it. So anytime I'm talking to a part, so like for example here today, um, for anybody who is interested in talking, I would say, is there a part of me that wants to talk about concerns about professional fulfillment? What are your concerns about it? And then if you hear inside your head, yes, um, and this is a passive process, like the listening to the parts. It's about being open to hearing what they have to say, being curious about what's going on there, and just willing to be surprised by what you hear inside. So, if you hear yes, then say, okay, is there anybody who doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to go there? And if there, if there is a part of you that doesn't want to, I would ask that you respect that and just leave it alone for now. Because otherwise, we don't want unintended consequences. That's no fun. So don't push through any resistances, address the resistances, and then continue on to whatever it is. And one of the main things about IFS that I would like to say is that the whole point of it is getting this self-access. And the idea is that then instead of like, um, being attached to other people or circumstances, like say a therapist or a partner or a friend, for your sense of being able to, deal with whatever comes up in your inner world. You have yourself and this relationship with yourself so that whatever else is happening, can you can deal with it essentially. So it's called being self-led, and I would like to let's see here. I'm just thinking about whether I should look this up or just say it from memory. There's something in IFS called the 8 C's, and these are 8 qualities of self, and they are compassion, creativity, confidence, clarity, calm, connectedness, care, and curiosity. So we can recognize if we are experiencing self within ourselves if those qualities are there. So, what I'm going to do is quick take a peek at responses that I got from people. All right, so Veronica, if you'd like to, hi there. If you'd like to, you can ask inside. Is there a part of me that would like to talk and, explore a concern that I have?
Yes, I already did that and
Okay.
it said yes.
All right, excellent. And then there's no part of you that's like, oh, this is a bad idea. Don't go there.
Um, Mainly just the fact that the public speaking in front of people that I don't know, I guess is the only thing that makes me a little like, ah.
For sure.
But that's just my introvertness, I guess.
Sure. That's totally understandable and natural. And I think all of us feel that to some extent. And a lot of people to a large extent. And it's okay if you don't want to do this. I'm happy to just, move on to another person if it's uncomfortable.
No, I definitely want to do it. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool. All right. So, what you put on the form is that you're not able to make the first move and feel a creative block. So, well,
So yes, absolutely. So I do photography, and I have been doing it for a long time, but I've never really. I guess I've started that step, but I've never been able to move it forward and push myself to where I really want to be in that aspect. And I also, because photography is not really a sustainable income all the time. It's really, being an independent photographer, it depends on how some months you get more work, some months you get less. I do also rely on, the regular 9 to 5 job, which I struggle big time with, and I have a really hard time. And I'm a very sensitive, intuitive person, so it affects me, my health. And then I start getting anxiety, and then I start getting sick. My stomach problems come up, and all these things just come up. And I just feel like there's just such a big blockage in me where it comes to like being able to push through all of my fears and move forward, especially creatively. I did study photography. I went to a creative school, artist school, but I just feel like I can never really channel that through the way that I want to. And I just mainly feel that like I'm putting the blocks within myself. But you did mention a few things that I really when it came, the type of photography that I was doing, I kind of fell into it was wedding photography, and I love. I'm a big love everything about love. But when I started doing wedding photography, I started realizing that a lot of people were doing their weddings based on their egos and showing, what, oh, look at how amazing we are, and not really about the love part. And that put a big damp on me. And that's what I realized, that I think you mentioned it very well, is that that having to commit to what other people want and what the society wants from me, I have a hard time bringing it out or connecting to that aspect of myself, where what is it that I can bring that will not only help the society but also fulfill me personally. I also have went through really maybe about a 2 to 3 year period of depression, and I have grown spiritually. Astrology has become a big passion of mine, and I really have. But the desire that I have is to help people and to help, especially younger adolescents. Sorry, my Spanish is kind of confusing me right now, but just help younger people that are dealing with depression. And that was such a hard part of my life, and I never really had the support or anybody that understood me. And I just want to be able to, like, my desire is to be able to help people and to see them grow and to be able to achieve a better part of themselves, but I just
Okay.
don't know how.
Okay. Okay. So I'm hearing a number of parts. Uh,
Yes, sorry, it was all over the place.
well, it was a lot of stuff, but there are a few main parts that stood out to me. Um,
Okay.
so the first one was a part that wants to push through and just make yourself do the thing, even though there are parts of you that aren't on board with it for various reasons. So that's one important part. There is another part I heard that has a belief that photography is not a sustainable source of income. There's another part that maybe isn't even sure that photography is the thing for you at this point anymore, and maybe there's something else that would be more fulfilling or more soulful, more inspired. And I think the part that I would most like to hear from first, if it's okay, if this part would like to talk, is the part that feels the need to push through. Mm, Wondering why push through all that?
I guess throughout since I was a young girl, I've always started things and I never really follow them through. And I've felt like I've never been able to achieve that in my life. And I feel like I put a lot of doubt because I've had a lot of incidents in my life where I actually did a little meditation about this the other day, where it was a particular incident in my childhood where I worked really, really, really hard to get this little star that they gave you, that you had it for the entire month, and I never got it. And it really brought me back to that particular moment, that it was such a, like, I guess, what do you call it? A fork in the road where, like, okay, I achieved this, I can go through, and then I didn't. So I fell back on that. And I guess ever since then, I have felt that struggle where I push through things and then I get to a point where I'm not able to go through with them.
Right, right. So
I don't know if that answers the question.
it does. That answers it
Okay.
extremely well, actually. So I'm wondering if this is one part or two parts. Is there the part
Ooh.
that was really sad about not getting that star and felt really demotivated about that, and then a separate part that feels the need to push through and achieve and get that goal to protect the sad part, or is it one part? So you can just like ask inside your head and listen for the answer.
So I'm getting one part.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And so there's a really interesting thing in IFS where parts have parts.
Yeah.
So it's possible that it's one part that has multiple parts too. So I'm wondering um, if this part would feel good about getting that star now? Like if you, Veronica, got that star and said, good job, you did really hard work. I appreciate your efforts and I'm recognizing your efforts and I'm really proud of you and you did a good job. Like if you did that, if the part would appreciate that from you.
I see that. Thank you. I actually kind of did that a little bit. Sorry for crying, everybody, but
Right.
I did that when I did the meditation the other day, but I don't think I was fully there.
Yeah.
But everything that you're bringing up is really making me have more of a understanding about how to go about healing that part.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Thank you.
it's,
Really, you just opened my mind to a lot of things. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. I think this is a pretty big deal. And I think that it's very natural, by the way, to feel that way when you work really hard because you want to earn something and then you never get it. That can be a really demotivating and discouraging thing, and it can be hard to go for things when there's this fear that you might experience that again. So
Right.
I think it's really important for you. Well, you can talk to your part about this and see if it's really important, but don't let another part talk you out of it.
Right.
Um, to actually physically create a star and put it somewhere where you're going to see it and be and remember that you're there with you and you appreciate your efforts and you are proud of yourself and that that you're going to take care of yourself, that if there's something that you need, that if there's anything that you can do to get that you're going to do that and nurture that little ambitious part inside of you. And also so the star is some external validation. If you can give yourself validation pretty often, I do this to myself. So if I do something that I didn't particularly necessarily want to do or that I used to have trouble with keeping up with, I will literally say out loud to myself, good job, Joy. You did great.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And it's something that's helped me a lot. Um, and then there was one other thing. You know, I think we should probably actually just leave it at that for now because
Okay.
so this is a thing about doing this kind of depth work. You are literally rewiring your nervous system when you do
Right.
this. And slow is fast. If you do too much at once, it can be destabilizing and it can be a little bit hard on the nervous system, a little bit hard on the immune system. So when you do this kind of work, sometimes sometimes you'll have this, well, often you'll have a big breakthrough and then just back off of it, just be there with it. And what I always encourage people to do is this little part that you know has this need to like inwardly just like embrace and cuddle and love this part and just say, you know, I love you no matter what. even Even if you totally messed up and like every single month screwed up and couldn't get the star, I would still love you. You don't have to achieve anything to have my love and acceptance. So I think it's important to like check in with this part. You can ask her name, or it could be him. I've got male and female parts. Um, you know, and then, you know, just every day for, you know, maybe a week or two, like let's say her name is, well, I don't want to make a suggestion, but you know,
It's okay. Yeah.
just call, you know, just ask inside by name, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling now? And is there anything you need? Um, and just kind of keep your conscious focus on holding this part in love and being affectionate and nurturing to this little part of you that, you know, needed a little bit of recognition for working
Mhm.
hard, which is
Yeah.
something that I think we all need. And
Thank you
very,
so much, Jane.
you're welcome. This is very
Thank
10th house relevant too, by the way.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing. That was really wonderful. All right, so I'm looking at my list again. Jen, are you here with us? All right, I think basically the people that I'm seeing in front of me with the cameras are the ones that are here. So let's see here. Beth. So you were one of the people that said, I just don't even know. But I'm wondering if you ask inside yourself right now, if there's a part that, wants to talk about something related to professional fulfillment, or if there's any kind of concern or discouragement with that. Um, do you have a part that would like to talk about that?
Oh, I have lots of parts that like to talk about all of my traumas.
Well, there's trauma, which is like anything that was painful to us, and like we all experience a lot of that. And then there's like trauma, like the big, deep, uh, serious stuff. And we can talk about trauma like all day long, but when it comes to trauma, um, I would rather not get into that, simply because I like don't have the qualifications or the support system, like the medical support system, to handle something like that. So
I'm good. I'm a
okay.
paramedic. Wasn't gonna go deep.
Okay.
But I have had a lot of career changes over my life, and because of that, I have not been successful, or as my life doesn't look like how I thought it was going to look back in my 20s. Um, and I think a lot of it is similar to what you said, with there being an underlying fear of success.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if I'm successful? How do I know how to handle that? And underneath of that also is a fear of failure. Does it make me a bad person when I fail? Or what kind of a reflection is it on me if I fail? Um, and I also wonder if whether that's been part of why I have changed professions as frequently and changed jobs as frequently as I have. Because if I keep changing, then I'm not succeeding, but I'm also not failing. But it's also keeping me very stagnant because I don't have that forward progress. And I think, like you mentioned, or someone else mentioned, and Veronica talking a little bit about wanting to be supportive of people and provide them with what she did not feel like she received sometimes during her childhood.
Mm-hmm.
My happiest years, my most fulfilled years, were the years that I was a volunteer firefighter and EMT. I loved it. Love being on the engine and being in the middle of that mix and throwing wet stuff on the red stuff. And I loved that brotherhood and that camaraderie and that feeling of family.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also tangibly contributing, and I was making things better.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like that's a part of me that couldn't change or improve or control some of the past from my childhood, trying to improve things for others. So I'm wondering if there's a part of me that couldn't fix that in the past, but I can fix things now. And by fixing external things, I'm either avoiding or delaying fixing the internal so that my life improves. My life improves, not others' lives improve.
All right. So I'm hearing a few polarized or several polarized parts here. So
Yes.
anything that exists in the world of form, and that includes like thought forms and parts, like anything that has differentiation, so it's separate from another thing. Um, all of those things have an opposite. So every single part of us has a part that's opposite of it, at least one part that's opposite of it, trying for something else. So what I'm hearing is that there's a part that's saying, if you don't just stick with something, you're never gonna like really build success in any particular area. And another part that's saying like, I want to change. And then there's another part that's saying, it really feels good to help people, and I really just love to help people. And another part that's saying, physician, heal thyself. We need to focus on the internal. And when we have these polarized parts, um, I think it's really important to fully hear out both sides of it, because every part I've ever talked to has had a really good point about something. And there's a happy compromise or a happy balance between them, usually, where it's a win-win, where both sides get what they really need out of it. And it just takes bringing some conscious awareness to these areas to know what that is, so that that can happen. Otherwise, we're just sitting there in inner conflict, going back and forth, and being frustrated that we are going back and forth, and not really getting anywhere with it. So um, I'm wondering if you ask inside yourself right now, if any of those parts would like to just share why they feel the need to do what they feel the need to do, if they identified with anything that came up.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I could never, this might be going too deep, and if it is, please let me know. But I have a part of me that was never able to please my mother.
Mm,
My grades, I was an honor roll student, at least since middle school, but I was always getting good grades, all A's, B's, maybe a B plus every once in a while. And my mother always knew when we were getting our report cards. And so she would sit with me and review my report card every time and would only focus on the lower grades.
mm,
Why isn't this A? You are smart enough. Why isn't it this? Why isn't it that? Whatever. It was, I could have, like, if I had 7 subjects, I'd have 6 A's and 1 B, but it was that 1 B that got the attention.
yeah.
So I know that there's a part of me that's trying to heal that hurt or prove that experience wrong.
Mm.
Um,
How
but
so?
sorry, go ahead.
Like, what's it trying to do to prove it wrong?
Be perfect,
Mm, right.
right? Because if I'm perfect, then I can't be disappointing or disappointed. Um,
What does it mean to be perfect?
I don't know. I haven't reached it. I thought that getting great grades was part of it, but it was not. Not in my mother's view. My dad's view, he's like, look, you're passing. This is awesome. You're doing well. Have a good day. So there was very much that differing dynamic in my household.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how does this part feel about the idea that nothing is ever actually perfect, that we're all always perfectly imperfect, and that's
I
how life is, and it's beautiful.
That's a real struggle for me, just that self acceptance
Hmm.
of who I am, where I am, and that I'm where I'm supposed to be, or blah, blah, blah. Because I can see where I've made decisions
Hmm.
that have gotten to me to where I am. And if I had made a different decision, I would be in what I view as a better situation. I've been an administrative assistant, which I really enjoy, but I also think that part of that is that I don't know, for lack of a better term, a codependent part, that if people depending on me,
Oh
then
no, you're
I
lagging, you're
matter
cutting out.
and I need it. Hold on, my son
Oh no.
on his Xbox. Um, ah, do I need to ask him to get off
Well, you're
and back
back
on?
again. Let's try to just roll with it and see how it works. So what?
Um, so that I have the administrative assistant part, which I feel like is trying to get people to depend on me, so I can show them that I'm reliable. I have a part of the firefighter EMT part where I'm making a difference and I'm making things better, so I must be okay. There's a part of me that is constantly striving, like I have to have this job that's a grunt work job for me to be making a difference versus the team makes a difference.
Okay, so here's my question right now. These parts of you that you're describing, how do you feel about them?
I feel like we're all a little confused.
Okay, all right. So there's a part right now that's trying to um, categorize all the parts and trying to understand the parts and just make sense of all of it. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that part would be willing to just kind of step back for a moment and um, sort of just let the parts, those parts speak for themselves and just kind of see what comes up.
That feels very scary. I'm going to tell you that off the
Okay,
bat.
all right. Well, let's talk about that then. So,
If I
so
don't
it's
if I don't control or corral all those parts, my life is going to be chaos and chaotic, and more so than it already has been. So maybe
okay.
that's that I'm here.
Okay, so we're not asking this part of you that feels the need to keep everyone in line. We're not asking you to stop doing what you're doing overall. And we certain if you don't feel safe doing that, like we certainly don't want that. Um, what we're wondering about is if like nobody's making any decisions, nobody's taking any actions right now. We're just exploring a little bit. So you don't need to step back from doing that in day-to-day life unless you want to. So you don't need to worry about that. It's just a matter of hearing these parts out. Does that sound scary?
It does a little because I'm not sure how to be supportive or acknowledging or validate those parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. um, so a thing that a lot of people do when they learn about IFS and learn that you know, they need to be self-led and take care of all these parts of them, is a part will be like, oh, well, this is a really big job. I'm going to have to work really hard at this and, you know, really try to keep everything running smooth and, you know, take care of all these parts. Ugh. But the thing is that it's not something that a part needs to do for other parts. It's something that self just naturally and automatically does when there's self presence. So there's a part that feels the need to play that role and to take care of all these other parts, and that's natural and that's okay and that's understandable. Um, but I think it's important for this. I'm gonna hold on. I'm stepping back myself for a second here. Um, can we just thank this part that's working so hard to try to manage all these other ones for like her or his her hard work and just show some appreciation and love for this part. It's
Or,
not easy.
well, it would be providing acknowledgement and validation that maybe that part doesn't feel like it ever received.
Yeah, and that was a theme earlier too, that you know there was this need to get everything right to try to get this validation and recognition and you know, and you didn't get that, not nearly enough, at least, especially, and there's a need for that, and this is also a very 10th house theme here, getting that recognition.
Right.
So, well, I for one would like to thank this part of you for working so hard all this time and doing her best to take care of you. Do you feel a bit of gratitude and maybe warmth for this part of you that's been working so hard all these years?
Yes, and a little exhaustion as well.
Okay, so the exhaustion is totally natural and very understandable, and it's another part that's saying, okay, all of this hard work, it, I'm just exhausted. I'm just tired. Um, there's something called the Enneagram. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
Mm.
but basically, there's 9 different types in the Enneagram, and each one of them essentially has a like a core fear, a core like way that they try to handle that fear. And Enneagram 1 is the perfectionist who just tries to do everything the right way.
Will you spell that, please?
It's ENNEAGRAM, the Enneagram.
Okay,
And
thank
you're welcome. And then there's another part 2, that tries to essentially earn love by taking care of people and helping people. And a lot of what you're talking about, it has sounded like Enneagram 1 and Enneagram 2 stuff coming out. And there's a website um, called Dr. David. Okay, well, if you look up Dr. David Daniels Enneagram 1, Dr. David Daniels Enneagram 2, you can find a site with a lot of descriptions that I like. And there's like an article, Growth for Enneagram 1, Growth for Enneagram 2. And there's a lot of other resources and YouTube videos and that sort of thing available. The way I see it, all of us have every Enneagram type inside of us. And a lot of people get really focused on figuring out what their Enneagram type is, and it becomes part of their identity, but that's not really the idea. I say that whatever's coming up for you right now, like I've had Enneagram 5 stuff coming up for me lately, even though I'm an Enneagram 2, that's my core type, 2 with a 1 wing. So So basically, what it comes down to is just work on whatever is coming up for you at the time. You know, it's less important what your core type is and more important what's alive in you right now. But it sounds that, having said that, it sounds like maybe you're either a 1W2 or a 2W1. And these parts of you, it sounds like there's a need for recognition. And if you can find a way to give yourself that, like we were talking about with Veronica, if there's a, you know, if there are ways that you can offer that to yourself, that could be a very healing thing for you. And also if there is, you know, I would start out with that, you know, just take care of that recognition. And then that perfectionism, the idea is like, if I do everything right, then I can be loved, then I can be accepted, then I can be appreciated. So the appreciation is going to help that part too. And well, maybe it's the same part. But I think that this part needs to know that no matter what you do, you'll always have your love, like you being self. So whatever happens in life, there's nothing, when it comes to self, there's nothing that your parts could ever do or not do to get any more or less of your love. That love has always been there and will always be there, and you'll always be there with them. And they, you know, they can't do anything to make you punish them, criticize them, reject them, abandon them. You're just there all the time, there with them, and love them and accept them just as they are, no matter what. That is something that every part that I interact with at the end of the day needs to hear that from me. When I'm, you know, in my own inner system. And that could be largely because I'm an Enneagram 2, so I need that love, or it could just be a human thing. I don't know. But it's just a thought.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate your listening, ladies. I appreciate your patience and your suggestions, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate
You're
you being
welcome.
intuitive.
You're welcome. So I'm wondering, is there anybody else here who has any parts that are saying, I wanna talk about something? Kat, I see you like doing something, but I don't know if that's I don't know if you're raising your hand or if you're.
No, yes, I was. Well, my 4-year-old was yelling at me, and I was asking
okay.
if you were asking if we were ask questions. Did you hear what I said? I'm sorry.
I wasn't sure if you were like waving your hand to say me, or if you were, or if that was something else. So, okay, if there's nothing that you would like.
No. I wasn't shaking my head at you. I'm sorry, I'm shaking it at her. No, she keeps getting in here. I told her, just give me a few more minutes. I wanted to ask a quick question.
Yes.
If it was time for me to ask, if I was allowed to ask a question, or if I needed to wait. Okay. I've recently gotten into this. I've totally immersed myself in the honey. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I love you. 5 minutes. I love you. Sorry. I recently got myself into this really big, I'm not asking because I picked up a lot from the other people who got information too. And I healed from past issues, like the grades was like a really big deal, and not being perfect all the time is a big deal, and that's done along for healing me. I have a lot in my 10th house, And I have my North Node is Leo, and I know that my rising sign is also Leo. And I have a whole lot of stuff in Taurus 10th house. My Chiron, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, my Mercury, my Taurus sun. I have a lot of things in Taurus, and since this is in professional, I'm usually a writer. I want to be an entertainer. I'm wondering what I'm supposed to be doing.
Gotcha.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what my purpose is, and I know that I'm supposed to do something. Please give me one more minute. I will give you whatever you want. Please. Please.
So it's all right. So the thing is, when you have a stellium, and by the way, of all of the different possible aspect figures that can appear in
I'm
a
sorry,
chart.
did you get all that? I'm so sorry. Here, I fixed it. I'm sorry. She was completely good throughout the whole meeting, and then she shows up when it's time to talk.
I've got kids too. I totally understand. All right. So what I was going to say is that stelliums are really challenging, one of the most challenging aspect figures that you can have in a chart. And the primary way to take the pressure off of them is to focus on the point opposite of them. And you can also focus on areas of the chart that trine it to help support that area as well. But usually when it comes to stelliums, it's like a case of too much focus there and almost like trying too hard. So you kind of sabotage yourself a little bit. So if you can focus more on your fourth house and, oh yeah, I see that face. You don't like that idea. So that's the astrology answer. Now the IFS answer here is going to be something more along the lines of what. So it's not so much an answer, but a question. What's the challenge when it comes to finding alignment between what's alive in you and what society wants from you, or like the value that that you can offer society? Like what's the challenge with it?
I think my biggest challenge right now, the thing that's keeping me from doing everything, is that I'm afraid of being judged for being very different.
I
do not think like people do. I kind of go against what people want me to do, and I have been completely ostracized and alienated my whole life. And now I'm being called upon to jump out and do something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, that is understandable, and I can relate to that. Let me just ask inside if it's okay to talk about this. Okay, so I actually have this part. I first met her when I was doing some IFS journaling at a park in front of a canal. And she swears a lot. I don't want to just quote her because, or I'll try. She was saying things like you're a dumb curse word, go throw yourself in the canal. Like she's very aggressive and angry and critical. Why do you have to be so weird? Why can't you just be normal? Why can't you just do what people expect you to do? Like why are you like this? She was very, very frustrated. And through a long conversation, with her. Well, you know, when I say long, you know, 3 or 4 pages of journaling and you know, maybe an hour in the park. So I mean, that is not that much for being able to address something this important. But I asked this part, why do you why do you want to be normal? What, why is it so important to you to be normal? And what she really wanted was acceptance. That's what she really wanted. And by the end of the conversation, you know, I'm saying, well, what if instead of fitting into society and being normal, what if we lead? What if we can gain acceptance by just really being authentically me, being myself, being ourselves, and the right people will be drawn to us and the right people will appreciate us. And it doesn't matter if everybody does, you can't win everybody anyway. Just, what if we um, just shine and, you know, let the right people be attracted and, you know, not worry about when people aren't. And, you know, I love you no matter what, whether you're accepted or not. And we can fit into society by leading society, or at least, you know, a little part of it. It doesn't necessarily need to be not being weird. We can encourage other people to embrace their weird selves too, you know, what about that? And this part liked that idea and been doing that since. So I tell that story because it seemed relevant, but I know that not everybody has the same approach when it comes to wanting or when it comes to the part of them that's critical for being weird. So would the part of you that like criticizes you for not fitting in or for being weird like to share anything about that? And before you do that, I would just ask that you make sure that you don't have any other parts that are just like hating that idea. You know, if you're feeling resistance, don't push through it. Just honor it.
I don't know if I am feeling resistance. I think I know that I'm capable of doing great things, and I'm just ultimately afraid of what happens if I choose to lead. So I think that I'm actually teaching myself to be okay with the fact that I'm never going to fit in, and that maybe I wasn't supposed to, and that maybe I will do a whole lot better if I don't fit in, and that I can teach others that it's also okay not to fit in, so they stop feeling like they have to be like everybody else and learn to embrace who they really are.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. I also have my North Node in Leo, by the way, and the nodal axis, I think, is just something that's difficult to balance, and finding like the higher expression of both sides of it is kind of the key. And it's hard because we like our south node feels safe, but our north node feels inspiring. Sometimes we abandon our south node and try to go totally into our north node. Sometimes we just shy completely away from our north node and try to hide out in our south node. But really getting the upper the higher expression of both of them is the key. And the way I describe Leo North Node is the lovable eccentric. So it's basically exactly what you were saying, that nodal axis, I should say. Anything else? Like, is there anything else that's alive in you right now that's coming up?
I'm ready to move forward. I knew that this weekend I was supposed to have that big old, like, there's way too much Taurus to just be like, tomorrow's going to be the same day as any other day.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of really serious, really huge epiphanies this weekend. And I knew I was going to have a wake up call today. And it was something along the lines of, today you're going to be this way, and tomorrow you're just going to be like, all right, now I'm going to be this way. And I feel like really just accepting that I'm going to always be this, and just stay eccentric, stay lovable, stay everything that I am, and just be okay with the fact that some people are just going to have to get used to it. I mean, yeah, that kind of takes a bit of a weight off my chest. I kind of knew something like that, but like my big conflict of all of this stuff saying, you know, I'm about stability and home and all this, and then it's like, but then my Leo is saying, you want to be in the spotlight, you want to be allowed and
Yeah.
lovable and all that good stuff. It's being in conflict with myself is the hardest thing in the world, and it's really nice to know that maybe I can step out of that now. Thank you.
You're welcome. I find that the amount of inner conflict can certainly be reduced, and you know, the nervous system heals as we do this kind of depth work. But like it never goes away entirely. Like, you know, just like we'll always be perfectly imperfect, basically. And yeah, so it comes down to, for me, just kind of flowing with it, and you know, addressing whatever comes up, and you know, just loving myself the way I am. Thank you for sharing with us. Is there anybody else who's finding that there's a part of them that's just like, I want to address this right now? Brooke, hi.
Hello. um, yeah, first of all, I just want to say to Kat, that was really, really nice. And I love your inner weirdo. And I will always, always choose the inner weirdos before the normal. They're my favorite type of people. So thank you for sharing that. I left a comment on the Facebook group today. And lots of things that the ladies have spoken about has touched and resonated. But the biggest thing for me right now is the fact that I've just lost everything about me. Everything that I used to like, I don't even have anymore. My passions that used to drive me have just diminished. So I've really stripped down everything of the core of who I am and who I was. And now I'm just completely empty. And so before I had these ambitions and these drives and I had these goals. But in the last year and a half, my life has been completely tipped upside down. Depression, amazing, wow. It's really hitting home. And so now it's not even about not knowing what I want to do with my life, but now it's gone down to who am I? Because before I can realize what I want to do with my life, I need to all of a sudden start filling my soul up again. So yeah, I'm completely naked. My whole soul is naked and I'm ready to be fulfilled. Or I think I'm ready. There's probably still some more shocks to come. But it's just like, how am I supposed to know what I'm supposed to give to the world when I don't even know what to give to myself, I guess,
Sure.
right now.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel about having this this fresh start right now?
I see the positive of it. I see the excitement of it. I see that I am going to become my true self, which I wasn't aware I wasn't before. So if you'd asked me 3 years ago, I would have been like, of course I'm my true self. What are you talking about? But now that I've really stripped down, although it's hard, I'm positive and I'm excited about the person that I'm going to become. And I feel it's going to be the real essence of who I am and the real reason I'm here.
Okay, so I have another question then. How do you feel about what you let go of? Do you feel like you're still grieving that, what you've lost?
No. An
All right.
abusive ex-boyfriend? Absolutely not.
All right. Congratulations for your
It's a woman power.
birth. And yeah, you're in a very exciting place now. And I think that it can be helpful to take some wisdom from the zodiac and from the house system, like just the way that the houses flow from one to the next. So you are very much in a first house place right now. You know, you released everything in that 12th house, you know, you surrendered everything, gave everything up, and now you are in a place to go out there and be a new person, and that is a beautiful thing. And so here's my question. What if instead of working to come up with a new definition of who you are, if you just kind of flowed with your experience and with the present, and just let yourself just be who you are in that moment, and not so much need to define it as much. How does that feel?
It feels good, but there's always that one anxiety behind me that is like, how are you going to sustain yourself? How are you going to put food on your table? You know, all of that. So it's like, because right now I'm jobless and I'm living in Spain and I don't speak Spanish and I'm far, far, far away from my home and I'm locked into this tiny little town in the mountains. And even if I wanted to go back to New Zealand, I couldn't get there because of the flights and COVID. So
Yeah.
as much as I'm like, okay, I'm stuck here for a reason. I know that I tried to leave this mountain town many times. So I think I am meant to be here for the soul journey, but the fact that there's no way I can get a job here and there's like money is limited, that's the only anxiety that's creeping in. So apart from that, I'm totally down with being myself slowly and letting it slowly drip in. But there's that anxiety that just kicks in and makes me think, how am I going to actually survive? Survival instinct kicks in.
Yeah, I understand everything that you just said. I just moved back to my like home area just at the beginning of September, and I was living in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, and it's kind of I'm not going to get into all the details, like we're not here for that anyway, but like I get where you're coming from. I totally get that, and I've had concerns about how I was going to you know, what I was going to do to sustain myself, you know, like
Yeah.
what's my livelihood going to be? So did you read the that article that I posted the link to, The Process?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how do you feel about focusing on the first step of that as a way to pave the way to finding what you're to finding this alignment between your inner world and outer world?
Yeah, I resonated with it a lot, and I want to try and bring it in and make it almost like the first daily step. You know, make sure I'm connecting with that so
Yeah.
that the rest of the day is with ease, you know, and with reassurance and strength.
Awesome. So I would recommend doing it right when you wake up, connect to that energy, and then right when you go to sleep, as you're falling asleep, if you can, do it again then, and you know, just kind of flow with that. And right now, a lot of people are working online. If you have internet connection, like it may not matter where you are. Like right now, the world is kind of geared for you to have this
Yeah. Well, I mean,
opportunity.
this whole Aquarius shift in December aligns really well with my chart because I have a huge Aquarius influence. And I saw Danushka, sorry if I don't say your name right, she just sent me a private message saying, hey, look online, like there's lots of jobs for English speakers. So indeed, it is something I'm trying to look into, but that's obviously with time. So thank you for sharing that though.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm just kind of like, there's a part of me that's saying like what else? But like, is there anything else?
For now, like you said, little step by little step, that was beautiful. And thank you for all the ladies that sent me private messages just then as well. I really appreciate your support.
All right, awesome. I am wondering if anybody else has anything else. All right, we can wrap up then. So thank you so much, everybody, for showing up, for being here, for participating. And yeah, if there's nothing else, then we can wrap it up. I do intend to do something like this again, and I've got some ideas about what that might look like, and different. Yeah, it is in progress, and I'm just gonna kind of flow with where it takes me, where it takes us. So I think next week I'm probably going to be doing a second house session like this, and what I would really appreciate is feedback from all of you. So either when I post this video in the Facebook group, comment there about, you know, the experience that you had, or you can send me an email, anything like that. I'm going to set up a way to get email notifications whenever there's like a new offer or a new event or, you know, news about this kind of, about this project, my current project, which is evolving right now. So I will have information about how to sign up to get those updates, and that will appear within the next day or two in the Facebook group as well. So thank you so much, everybody, and take care of yourselves, take care of your inner family, your parts, and I will hopefully see you all again. Thank you. And you're
Thank you.